Starbucks founder Howard Schultz will be in the hot seat today answering questions from the Senate Help Committee about the way the company tried to halt union campaigns. Joining us now, Senator Bill Cassidy. He's the lead Republican of the Committee on Health, Education, and Labor and Pensions. And Senator Cassidy, it's good to have you on. How do you're from the right side of the aisle, obviously. How do you view the current state of the NLRB? Would you say that's a totally, it's supposed to be totally down the middle. It's supposed to not take the sides of either labor or management in all these disputes. Is that what we have right now with the NLRB, with my leading question?
It is not what we have. It is, Joe, no, thank you for having me. It's not what we have. We have an NLRB in which there's credible whistleblowers who are saying that the NLRB is putting their thumb on the side of the employees, sharing information, phone list, et cetera, with those attempting to unionize and not sharing the same list with the employer. That's wrong. It's against the rules, and yet we have a credible whistleblower saying it. I'll point out, this hearing, with a very provocative title, is based upon NLRB unfair labor practice allegations. We should have done our own investigation to find out if this is true. The process is not what it should be.
And it's just as an odd, it's a strange thing to see Howard Schultz being paraded in front of Congress as sort of the enemy to workers when, I don't know, just he spent years building one of the greatest, he's a young guy. Can you believe he built that company from scratch, Bill? And how many people does he employ with good benefits, good wages? I don't know. Suddenly he becomes someone who's basically a union buster because has he done things that he should be held to account for in terms of anti-labor practices, in your view, Senator?
I'm not quite sure. I'm not here to defend Starbucks. If they've done something wrong, they should be held accountable.
Have they?
But I will say their benefit package looks pretty reasonable. They pay much more than the fast food average of $17 or $17.50 per hour. They will offer online college benefits for those who wish to go. And for those working 20 hours or more, they give them health care. Now, that's pretty good, and that's probably better than most fast food restaurants. On the other hand, this will be the second time in 8 days in which Chairman Sanders has called a CEO for what I consider a show trial, to have them come before the committee and before the cameras to defend their business. Right. Before the committee itself has actually done an investigation to see if there's a problem. I suspect Mr. Schultz will handle himself very well because I think the reasons that he's brought here are somewhat flimsy.
Only in America. Bernie's presiding over this. It's just, I don't know. No one sees the irony in that. He's a socialist. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Howard Schultz here, he did do this. He personally before he came back as CEO, he personally conducted captive audience meetings where workers had to attend to hear him talk about how great things were without a union. And then he returned to Starbucks as CEO. So is that specifically a bad form? Is that not allowed to do something like that, to come in? Employees had to listen to why they shouldn't join a union, and then he comes back as CEO. I guess that might raise a few eyebrows, but so does some of the stuff the NLRB does, I would say.
I will say that since 1984, that has been allowed, where a business owner or management can bring in employees and they can speak to them about why they should not join a union. It's, if you will, equal time, because you know that the union is infiltrated and is telling people, listen, this is why it's good to join a union. So it's been allowed. It's totally legal. Now, I will say that NLRB wishes to end that practice, but it's been in effect since 1984. He's done nothing illegal there. Some of the other allegations that are being made just don't seem like they're going to stand. About 50% of unfair labor practice allegations typically are dismissed. And yet these allegations are what we're basing this committee hearing on. We should have done our own investigation, but I think the title tells it all. It's in the title. The title accuses Starbucks of labor busting, and that's before we've had the hearing.
I mean, it's been well documented, and people will ascribe different reasons for the decline of unions in the United States. But, I mean, it's single digits, and it's dropped from much higher levels in the past. A lot of people say that there are a lot of laws that have been written that prevent unfair labor practices, that making it perhaps not necessary. Others would say that the marketplace itself rewards companies that treat and pay employees more, have better benefits, that they retain people more easily. What industries do you think, Senator, really have employees that desperately need union representation? Bernie would say every single industry, everyone in the world should probably be unionized in Bernie's view, but you know, it should all be probably state-run in the first place. But where do you think we really still need unions at this point?
I would say it's up to the employees, that everyone has a right to unionize, and they should. But for me or anyone else to prescribe, oh, you must be in a union no matter what, is kind of wrong. And by the way, I can understand.
Why only 7% or 10%, whatever it is now? It may have gone up. I think it's had a little bit of a bounce recently. But why did it decline? Why did the employee workforce not demand unionization then? Why did it drop to these levels in recent years?
There's a lot of states that have enacted right-to-work laws as part of economic development. And so if you look at Louisiana, we passed a right to work. And since then, we've attracted a lot more industry to move to our state. If you're a well-trained welder in my state, you do very well financially. Plumbers do very well, not because they're in a union, but because there's a market demand. And this was part of a strategy to attract more industry, to employ more working-class people to the state of Louisiana. There's other right-to-work states that have made the same call. And the trend is, of course, that industry migrates to right-to-work states. You can argue that the employee does better in a right-to-work state because she or he is more likely to have a job competing for their work than in a state that is not right-to-work, where industry is migrating away from. There's also the gig flexibility economy, if you will, the Uber, the Lyft, the DoorDash. That's another case where people don't want to be unionized. They like the flexibility of being able to work when they want, not work when they want, work for 3 different people at the same time, getting the best fare they can get. That would not necessarily be allowed under a union contract. It is when the gig employee has the flexibility to determine their own hours.
All right. Senator, thanks. Should be interesting. It's some interesting personality. Howard Schultz, Bernie Sanders should be. I think maybe C-SPAN might have some good ratings today.